to make sure that we have some audio. It'll take a couple minutes here, Dawn.
Okay.
And then what I'd like to do is we're going to go through these slides today, and then we'll take time for discussion. And so we never know what our crowd will be like here or somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But today we're going to talk a little bit about how to extend the impact of your story so that you don't lose your audience over time. We appreciate our sponsors, the Insurance Smith, the Community Foundation has been super supportive. And also Therapeutic Alliance, which is a regional therapy organization, has been really helpful. So I'm going to be running two sets of slides here. So what I want to talk about is how to extend the life of your story. And how are you doing? We're live on YouTube, just by recording only, not visual.
Right.
So, what is your first name?
I'm Diane.
I'm Dave.
Nice to meet you.
That's Dawn over there.
Hi, Diane.
That's Ann and Ashley. So we're talking about how to extend the life of your story. The challenge we have is that we spend a ton of time, a ton of effort developing materials, whether it's a video or a slide thing or an article or a photo essay. You know, it's just so much work for us to do that. And then, you know, we share it. And so in the last couple of days, a lot of the groups that are in the Perfect the Pitch competition have been sharing. And so some of them are seeing really dramatic bumps in their viewers. So how's that happened for you? What's happened?
It started so small that
Right.
it's been pretty impressive to see how quickly it's grown to keep setting bars and have them be reached so quickly.
Yeah.
I'm being unrealistic with where we're setting the bar. Maybe
Right.
it should be even higher.
And so whether that's a video or it's a simple picture, you get this big spike, which is really, it's helpful, it's exciting, it's powerful. But the challenge is you put all your energy into that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you keep it going without having to do that over every week? So we want to talk a little bit about how to make the most of it. And so the concept we're going to talk about for a few minutes, and please help yourself to water,
Thank you.
is how to think like a publisher. And there's a professor at Northwestern that says it like this. She says that if you have a website, you are a publisher. And so we don't really think of ourselves that way. We normally think of ourselves as nonprofits or charities or service organizations. Good afternoon. Grab some water if you want. We're live on audio on YouTube. And we're talking about how to not have to try and create all kinds of amazing content every week by extending the life of what we have and making it more valuable for people. So the concept is that, you know, if you are a nonprofit or a business, you are actually a publisher. And it didn't used to be that way, but now everyone's in the media business, everyone's in the storytelling business. And so the challenge we have now is how do we do that? So we have to think like a publisher. And so the concept we're going to talk about is the storytelling around your story, and give you some ideas about how can you extend the life and the impact of what you are sharing. So hopefully all my technology will behave. Maybe. So I'm using all kinds of Google stuff today. I'm using Google Hangouts, Google Slides. So we'll see how it all behaves. So one of the goals that we have in terms of extending the life. So I know you guys launched a video this week, and how's that going?
Great.
Have you had some good responses to it?
Yeah, it's been shared 93 times.
93? I bet more than that, probably.
Maybe.
I bet.
That's how many it's telling me. But
Okay.
4,000 views last time I saw.
4,000 views.
Wow.
Wow.
It's been long.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest number you've ever had before that?
Before that, I don't know if I ever put out a video, so I don't know if I can compare apples to apples, but I mean, I had something else where I had like 100 likes or something like that.
So that was the biggest. So 4,000 views. Yeah, so that's a huge bump. So the challenge we have is, bam, we have this big bump because we did some good content. We killed ourselves to get it out there. And now we don't want that to slide down to zero. So how do we stretch that out? How do we tease that out? So the goals would be, we want to expand the reach of that media as far as it possibly can go. That's one goal. Secondly is we want to increase the engagement that people have with it, how long they watch it. When we look at videos, we look at time on the video, or do they finish it? And the stats out there are that when it goes past about 2.5 minutes, it begins to dip. It's pretty good to 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, it starts to go down. After 5 minutes, the completion rate is pretty low. So it's all about how long they stay. And with a simple picture, it's not so critical because they can read it and share it. We also want to create staying power. So there are some things that we share that people like to keep around. They want to print them. They want to keep them on their desktop. They want to, share them with really personal lists, maybe their personal family or their friends via email. And then we also want to find ways to take this media that we've created, whatever it is, and we want to reach more deeply into our target audience. So whoever the constellation of people are that you could possibly reach, we want you to reach as far into that population as you can. So for many of you, it's probably Fredericksburg, Stafford, King George, Caroline, Spotsy. We want you to reach as far as you can into that population. But one of the ways to do that is you have to begin to add perspectives to that story in order to make that happen. So we're going to talk about how to make that work. Those goals seem valuable to you? Kind of?
Definitely.
Okay. All right. So we start by identifying what the anchor is. And for most of us, that is very simple. We've got an anchor story or anchor video that we've just put out. Sorry, it's not showing. Let me see if I can make it behave. Okay, like I said, I'm using Google, so I'm learning some new tricks. There we go. You guys didn't say anything. So we want to identify the anchor story. And if we're not doing a lot of publishing, then it's pretty simple. For all of you, that's probably like one piece that you've just put out, a video or something significant. So you did video,
We did video.
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 So your anchor then is really that video. That's the key storytelling piece you're doing. But it could have been something else. It could have been an article. It could have been a press release. It could have been something that was slide based. It doesn't really matter what it is as long as you identify what that is. And so the temptation we have to avoid is thinking that stories are told by machines. Because in the social networking world, we think if we put it out there that automatically somehow it's kind of like a sci-fi story. It makes its own way. But the truth is it really doesn't, does it? So every point of share, every point of view, every time someone engages, there's a human who's clicking, who's forwarding, who's responding. So there is no digital sharing. It's really about human sharing. We're just using digital means for that purpose. Anybody see the movie Sherlock Holmes? Do you remember all the scenes where they would switch to a different point of view? They're typically around the fight scenes where he was getting ready to calculate how he was going to overcome the enemy, and they would move the camera to a new angle, and they would show the whole thing in kind of fast forward, stop motion, and we see that same thing on a lot of DVDs and Blu-rays. We see this multiple viewpoints capability. Well, that's a great way to look at these stories. So if you think about the video or the thing you've just put out, how could you create multiple viewpoints of that same story? And that's what you want to begin thinking about, is how do you provide other ways of thinking about, talking about, considering what you have put out. So here is a graph. This graph talks about a number of ways to stretch this story out. And those include both vertical and horizontal methods of sharing. So on the red side, we have external sharing. That would be external from the organization. And on the green side, we have internal sharing. And then the vertical, at least in our diagram, are your channels, the things you have available to you that you directly control or can influence. So let's start with the internal sharing. Now this diagram was actually written kind of from a business perspective, but you still get the idea. So as an organization, internally, who is there internally that can help stretch this story out by sharing their perspective, not just repeating it or retweeting it or posting it, but actually adding something to the story? Because just like a good fishing story, it grows with time, right? That fish gets bigger and bigger, or that home run gets longer and longer. So who in your organization could help to add their perspective to the story? So start at the top of this. These, we call them authorities. And in the business world, that's the C-suite, CEO, CIO, CFO, the executives, the board members. So for nonprofits, that's board members. Who in the boardroom or in the board circle, board family members, board member, friends, partners, etc., who could add to the story? So if you think about your board members and the story that you're telling, how could your board members add a perspective to the story as they interact with it? What could they do? So think about your board members, Megan. I know, I'm well familiar with what you do more than others at the table. So have your board members had personal experiences with people that you're serving?
Yeah, I guess with our campaign, one of the things we've started to think about is that since we put our video out, different people have kind of come forward and said like different things about kind of the Change My Sign concept. And even staff and board members, I think, would be the same. We've kind of started to challenge, well, tell us your Change My Sign story. And, that's been, one way we've really just kind of started to play with, can we capture those? And
So are you asking for their personal story or for their interaction with your service population?
more so, I think the interaction.
Okay.
I mean, it could be a mix. I mean,
Okay.
like you could get a volunteer,
Okay.
volunteer or staff person that would kind of
Okay.
be able to say, you changed my perspective of homelessness.
Okay.
You're changing my sign. Or,
Okay, so you're asking them to own the title for themselves. My sign's been changed, right? And
Right.
how? That's a great idea, right? So now what you're doing is you're saying, tell us your unique real life encounter that you had with someone that needed your help and you served them. Maybe you started out with biases and fears and you overcame that and had your own personal life transformation as well as helping them change. So what's the obvious benefit of that?
Well, if people, not everybody would resonate necessarily with the person we're serving, but they might resonate with their friend on the board who their experience has been changed by working with
Right.
the people who we serve.
So that's right. So this other layer is not just the people that we help, it's the people who work alongside of us, volunteers, board members, staff members. And their stories are just as valid. And a lot of why they serve is why people give, because they want to be involved in changing things. So it's super valuable. So I love that idea. And so keep in mind, it doesn't always have to be, I was afraid to help the homeless and now I'm not. It could simply be, I've given money to a lot of places in my life and I've been frustrated with what I saw the outcomes be. But when I give money here, I see real tangible. That could be a great story.
Yeah.
All right. It doesn't have to be this personal, I'm now sleeping under the bridge story. It could be something that's just, I'm helping, I cook, or something very simple. So we should not, we shouldn't narrow the field of these stories. We should let the perspectives grow. And so that gives a whole new light and a whole new life to that video now because someone's telling it for themselves. And not only is it personalized and I know the person, but it's totally authentic. It's not a person I drive by real fast on the bridge. It's now a person I know, right? So it's a really great idea. So this is kind of the idea of go up in the organization and look for people that can share their own version, their own light on the story that you've been telling. Then what about, in businesses, this is definitely true, vendors and suppliers, but what about vendors and suppliers to your nonprofit? are there other people in your circle who are not board members or volunteers? There are people that bring your coffee into your office. They rent you a facility. They fix your car. They sell you styrofoam cups. They do your taxes. All those people who are in your life, they could be civic, well, that would be external. But really, these are people that are serving you. And many of them, many of these companies understand that they have to do some good stuff now and then. And they want to, right? So this is a great opportunity to engage them and allow them to share their part of this, right? Adds more credibility, same thing. What about just employees? People that are actually employed either as interns. If you have a broken chair, you can swap chairs.
No, that's
Okay.
good.
Yeah, some of them are a little funky. So, what about interns? How do you share your perspective? Is your perspective different than a board member's perspective?
Right, yeah.
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 So, what kind of things? You guys have been telling a story about Project Adelante, which is that refugee resettlement or is it?
It's immigrants.
Immigrant.
Latino immigrants.
Okay. So how do you share your perspective on that story? How long you been an intern there?
Since February.
So not that long, right?
Right.
So you've got your own little journey that you've been on
yeah.
to explore and learn about what this is all about.
Mhm.
And so is that something you've been able to share?
I have. I've been blogging about it. I
Okay.
have a personal blog, and then we also we work with the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship. So
Great.
I've been on their blog and got
Okay.
picked up by Baptist News Global and
Awesome.
some different organizations
That's
like that.
awesome.
So I've
Right.
been able to share.
So you said some important things. You said the
Uh-huh.
word blog,
Uh-huh.
right? So your blog yours is a different story, right? And the more authentic it is, the better it's going to be. It's about what you've experienced as you've watched, helped, served, wondered, all the things that go on with someone who's volunteering or interning. And the same thing's true for employees. So whatever you can do to mobilize them, and then you're the network, right?
Mhm.
Now the network is actually would be up in the upper section of this chart. That would be your network that the Cooperative Baptist Fellowship you work with. That's part of your infrastructure, right? So that's another internal authority that you can get a hold of, and you guys have done that, which is really exciting. So this makes sense, this idea. Really engaging, but not trying to control or wrangle these stories, but let people tell them. Let people talk about what they see, what they feel, what they are experiencing. And let them use their channels. One way we can think about this is that people have different personal operating systems. Some people are Facebook people. Some people are email people. Some people are handwritten letter people. Let them use their own personal OS to communicate how they want to communicate, but encourage that and reward that. And so you can make a big difference. So if you just left the video alone and you hadn't been blogging, you would have never connected with this broader news source, right?
Mhm.
Right, that's great. Okay, so let's go to the other side. Any questions about this idea? It's a little bit of work, but it's definitely worth doing. So you blog. Can the organization do anything with your blog?
Yeah, they can. And we actually have our own personal blog that I write for as well.
Okay, so you're writing 2 blogs.
Mhm.
But the organization could grab the links that you're creating with your blog and share them. Same thing's true with anybody else on the green side of this chart. Grab their links, share them, encourage other people to do the same. What if you can't get these people to do it? What if they don't want to talk? What could you do then? How could you help them?
That was my question. So
Okay.
I was hoping you would tell us.
Here's what I would do. I would get a tape recorder. I'd get a digital tape recorder or a notepad. And I would say, I know you're probably not involved in social media too much. I'd like to share your thoughts or do a conference call, do freeconference.com and just record it. So you have, and get everybody you can think of on the call and say, give us one sentence, give us a short story. And just, I found that auditory storytelling is much easier for many people. And just make it easy for them. Get someone to transcribe it and say, we're going to publish this. And I'd love to put your picture on it. Can I grab your picture off your Facebook or your LinkedIn and get their permission to do it and, help them out by sharing. Typically, if you do that, they will like it, comment on it in their own network, even if they wouldn't have written it themselves. So that's a little way of gathering those.
Do you ever have to be concerned about what form that permission takes? I mean, should you get that kind of thing in writing all the time?
Well,
Especially
if these are
using it-
insiders, you're trusting that you have goodwill. And if you have a recording that says, we are going to use this on social media, and you're all agreeing as you talk, so you can do it verbally. And you can get what the official forms called a model release form.
Mhm.
And so as a matter of course, when you hire people, when you bring interns in, when you get volunteers, when you get participants, they should all sign a model release form. So you have those on file. You can get a standard model release, they're on the internet, and that protects you in writing. So it's a good idea. But a verbal recorded agreement is, especially if they're an insider already. So let's talk a little bit about the external. Anybody have any ideas here that you can do something with so far on this internal stuff? Any challenges you have, any barriers you think you have to overcome to make it work?
I definitely want to just try the tape recording people's stories, because a lot of people, they'll tell me great stories, but if you try to get them to write it down, it's it's time consuming for
Right.
them. So just to
That's right.
quickly record it
And don't discount this little device right here,
that's
which
funny.
does video, right?
yeah.
And sometimes a very informal video can be just as powerful as a really well-produced video. So just say, would you give us 2 sentences? Now people get more self-conscious.
Mhm.
So you might have to do, audio with their picture rather than actually videotaping them. So everyone's got a different comfort level with that. So, okay. So what about externally? How do we stretch this story out externally? Let's go up to the top of the chart under authority. So these are people that have some kind of authority or role in the community. So people that are political. It's very common for political people to issue statements. They will do plaques. They'll do press announcements. They will read things you give them to read. They will do video for you. So find someone. It could be civic. It could be county level. It could be congressional. It could be state house. They typically will do that because they care about these issues. They will certainly give you a quote for sure on the phone for most of these things. And it's a great source of credibility. They also have official blogs. They have official Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts. And so simply a phone call to their office, say, we're working on this issue. Would you please give us a comment or share? And it's a simple ask. We've done things where we've actually done press conferences. We did a deal in California where we gave an award away to someone that was really helping the population that we were serving. We were working with single moms who were struggling in poverty. And so we gave an award away to another organization that was doing good things for them. And we asked a congressman and the mayor to come, and they gave the award out for us. Well, what do we get out of that? We got in their official releases. We also got in the news of it, right?
Right.
And our cost went to the trophy shop and bought a trophy or a plaque in this case. So you can get the politicians to help you out. And of course, the press is a great source. We all think of that. We're a little short on press around here. We don't have, we just got our first TV station, CVTV, which is now broadcasting live. I think they're broadcasting live, I don't know how many hours, but they have recorded shows they're running. So that's a good source. Obviously, the radio stations are a good source. Any kind of a news interview you can get. Anybody has any opportunity on the radio?
We were on the front page of the paper, but not the radio.
Front page of the paper, that's a good place to be, right?
Newstalk 1230 and do things.
Okay. So, what makes that valuable? How do you make that really valuable? If you're going to be on a live, either television or radio opportunity, it's good to get them to talk about it, but it's better if you can get a real live person, either someone you're helping or someone who's volunteering. If you work for the organization, you're kind of a suspect entity. See what's happening here. Because you're paid to be good, right? You're paid to help. But the volunteers, the board members, they're not paid. So their voice tends to be much more authentic and believable and have more authority. So that's a great thing for you to do. Any thoughts about the press? Is anybody working on press stuff? Okay. Also, I think business partners can also help you with this. Many of you probably have some business partners that you work with who do some kind of support for you already. Is that no? So what could businesses do to help you with this? Once again, the goal is to get more people to tell their perspectives on your story. So what can I do with a local business, local tire shop, where I get the tires changed on my vehicle, or the guy who brings me, who does catering for my events, or the landlord or the rental company who has employees? What could they do to help us or help you? Any ideas? So what do you want them to share, right? So every employee that they have is a potential spokesperson for you. And they could all share about what you do. What would they need to be able to do that? Incentives. Okay, that's true. And sometimes the incentive is the boss likes this, and so I think it's a good idea, right? Another incentive is people do want to do good. You know, people love to engage in doing good in their own work setting. It's really fun for them. So, you know, the United Way is probably the masters of this with the workplace campaigns, but you could do your own little workplace presentations with businesses that are supportive and say, here's what we're doing. Here's the video we're showing. Here's a little half sheet with information. If you would just share this on your own social accounts, it would just mean so much to us. Not a big ask. And you would collect them as kind of followers on your social, and they would become storytellers. So that's another idea for businesses. And then you could be more formal about it. That's kind of the poster route. That's what we usually see charities doing, is putting posters in the window. Well, a poster does not tell a story either, right? It's good for an event marketing, but it's not really good for storytelling. So you're much better off. Have you been to the grocery store lately? When you try and check out, what do they ask you? How about PetSmart? What do they ask you?
Will you donate?
Will you donate? So, you know, much more active employee advocacy is being done all over the marketplace. It's all a question of who puts that stuff in their hand. The difficult targets are big box stores because they've got national programs. Much softer target for a charity is a local business. And maybe they have 5 or 10 or 20 employees. And just, you know, you bring some pizza in and spend lunchtime there and talk about what you're doing. And you're not asking for money. All you're asking for is that they help you tell your story. And that's a more fun ask, you know, for a lot of people. So what about influencers? What's a social influencer? Anybody know what that is?
A celebrity or people who talk
It
about
could be a
things.
celebrity, absolutely. Okay. And typically a celebrity is going to have a very large social following. They might have a physical following, you know, if they go places, but on a more kind of pedestrian level, an influencer is just somebody that's got a lot of followers. And there are people, so one local person that does this is Dan Morrison. Dan Morrison is a local guy. His handle is @CitizenDan or Dan Citizen. And you all need to hit up Dan Morrison to help you out. He did some training last year for Community Give. So Dan, he's got, last time I checked, he had 10 or 11,000 Twitter followers. And they're not just ordinary Twitter followers, they're active. So when he puts something out, things happen, right? So he's an influencer. And there are other people who are also influencers like that. Those people can do a lot for you. And you just have to engage them, treat them like they are a press outlet, you know, talk to them about your story, see if you can get them interested.
Like somebody suggested to me that we find like actors that have been in movies about homelessness, or ones that, like Miley Cyrus has a big thing about youth homelessness right now. Like, is it really worthwhile to tweet, say, our video to those people and
Right.
get them to, I mean, are they going to do anything?
So why don't you tell your story?
Look at it.
So just listen to Ann's story about this, okay?
So we didn't have a Twitter account for our organization when we started the Protect the
You
Nation.
talk a little louder so that microphone can
Yeah,
hear
so
you.
it's 3 days old, maybe. And so we had no followers. And so I was going on to try to find people in our industry that we would want to follow or that had some kind of connection to us. And so one of the people that I started to follow was the manager of the Yankees. And less than 2 hours later, he reciprocated and is following us, and that's how he liked and retweeted some of the stuff that the community did. To me, it was totally random. I had no idea that somebody that, I mean, he
I feel
has
like I don't know half the
100,000 Twitter
people who are
followers.
following us on Twitter. Like, I so don't get Twitter. I just like, who are these people?
Right. So, think of it this way: the celebrities, they use this as part of their marketing. Charity involvement for them is marketing. So, what does it cost them to shout you out on social? Nothing. In fact, they don't even do it themselves, right? They have one of their employees do it, or a company, or their PR company does it for them. So I would say, if you don't think it's valuable, go in the supermarket and go look at the checkout stand and see how many tabloids are there. They're following celebrities. And if you were to do a search on Google that said, celebrities interested in homelessness, you would get a huge list, right? Or any other issue that you're working on. So I would definitely do that. I mean, I don't think that's a mainstay for you, but clearly, if someone's following you and you retweet the manager of the Yankee organization, wow, that's pretty fun for me, right? I mean, if the guy signed my baseball card, I would frame it, right? So it's just pure fun. So there's nothing wrong with it, and I would not spend days and days on it, but you will discover the slightly softer target would be actors who have done something who are not like uber famous, and they're always looking for good publicity. They would probably do something personalized for you if you asked them. And so just find out who handles them and contact them. So it's a great idea. Also think about reviewers, people that do reviews, and that may not apply to what you're doing, but something to be thinking about. So all these people, the same thing is true as with the insiders. It's all about them using their channels, right? Let them use their voice and their channels, their perspective. And what that does is it adds depth and breadth to your story. So it reaches more people. And then also the most important group on this whole chart are consumers, the people that you're going after. These are either clients or they are supporters. They're the ones ultimately that you want to tell this story, depending on what your client population is, right? So we don't see probably a lot of people who are homeless being big Facebook users. I don't think, maybe they are, but probably not. They're dealing with other realities. But for other groups that we're working with, they may be. In the immigrant community, there is very significant use of Twitter, very significant Instagram activity. Sports has its own areas. And I'm not sure what you work on.
Art.
Okay.
Arts.
Right. So the arts, clearly, there are people there. So think about this. The ultimate litmus test of your story is whether or not your target audience is telling it. And that's what all these retweets and engagement, that's what it's about. So if you can be intentional about that, and actually solicit those comments, those social statements, those testimonials, those perspectives, then that is a huge thing. So are you with the Arts Festival?
No, Artful Dimensions.
Oh, okay. So I think that as you look at your consumer group, who in that group has already got a voice? Who's blogging? Ask them if they would blog about it. Who's got a big following on their social? Ask them if they will share about it. And you want them to tell that story in their own words. You're looking for a little more than just a retweet. Retweet's great. It's helpful, but it's not what you're really looking for. You're looking for them to put voice or words or thoughts to your story. So
What
same
does
thing.
that look like? Is that like they retweet it and say something about it, or they?
At minimum, we want to do that. What we really want them to do is we want them to retell the story in their own words. So, your story is too long to do just a retweet on. They could say, this is a great video, you should watch it. What you want them to do is you could say, I was so moved when I began thinking about just the dramatic change that happened in the life of someone who used to hold a sign up that said, we'll work for, but now holds a sign up that says employed carpenter, And however they would retell it, That's what you're after. So that might look like a series of tweets, or it might look like a nice long Facebook post, or maybe they grab one of the pictures you're sharing and say, this is the one that really got me. Or maybe you get them to hold up their own cardboard sign, right, and talk about their own life change.
That's what National Alliance to End Homelessness is doing right now. The Hands campaign,
I haven't
like
seen it yet.
they're getting people to take pictures of their hands related to, like, with these hands, with ending veterans homelessness.
Okay.
It's kind of effective. But yeah,
Yeah.
I thought about that with cardboard signs.
So how can your people tell the story themselves, in their own words, their own approach? Every time they do that, more than retweeting, every time they blog, every time they do a series of tweets, write a Facebook post that's lengthy, share a picture, or maybe you go by and talk to them, and you take a selfie together, and they just say, I had this really meaningful conversation today, and someone came by from this organization just to thank me for how I've helped them. So a thank you approach for your donors could also be very powerful. People tend to retweet and share things that are about them, right? Self-interest. So the more you can do that, the better. So they're the ultimate ones who are telling the story. They're the ones who decide if it's true, if it's not true. Makes sense? So the more of this you can do on either internal or external, the more you can stretch this thing out. The more you can spread it out, the more you can retell it, the more views it gets, the more impact it creates. And the goal, in normal course of events, the goal might be to put out something valuable every couple of weeks and try and stretch it. Maybe you lead up to it and you drag it out on the other side. So now you have to do a whole new deal every day, but now you can do it every few weeks or maybe every month, right? So now you can stretch this content out and kind of get the most out of it. So that's how we would normally use it. So vertically, things you control. Think about how could you tell the story in ways you haven't told it yet. If you told it in video, have you told it in pictures? Have you told it in audio? Have you told it in a blog? It sounds like a Dr. Seuss book, doesn't it? Have you told it with a tree? So have you told it in an event? Have you done, what do they call that when you go downtown and you become a piece of art? You stand still.
Performance art.
Performance art. Have you done performance art? If you did a 3-minute video, have you done a series of 10-second videos? Have you done any informal videos? So the idea here is don't redo the story. Just find different angles, different perspectives, different emotions that connect to it, so you can stretch it out that way. And also they fit in different channels. You could also do a Twitter chat. So Megan, you could do a Twitter chat with someone who is homeless and put a time on it. Tuesday at 3 o'clock, we're going to talk with this person and talk about their experience. Get a few people to kind of be the questioners, so it's loaded, so you have some activity, and sit there with the person and do a Twitter
That's
chat.
gonna be my question. Like, do people show up for that kind of?
Oh
thing?
yeah.
We got way too much free time on our hands in this
I'll tell you
world.
who does. I'll tell you who does real effective.